It's time for Supply Chain Now Radio, broadcasting live from the supply chain capital of the country, Atlanta, Georgia. Supply Chain Now Radio spotlights the best in all things supply chain. The people, the technologies, the best practices, and the critical issues of the day. And now, here are your hosts.
Hey, good morning. Scott Luton back with you here on Supply Chain Now. Welcome back to the show. Today's show, we're not broadcasting live from Atlanta, GA. We're here in Las Vegas at the home of the Reverse Logistics Association Conference and Expo. It's become the center of the universe for all things returns and reverse logistics. And we've had an outstanding opportunity to sit down with thought leaders and supply chain leaders and technology leaders that are helping make that space happen, which is incredibly and growing in its importance to end-to-end supply chain day in and day out. So today's episode, we are going to be continuing that trend, and we're excited about speaking with Bruce of InforMission. We'll introduce him in just a second. But first, we've got to bring in my fearless co-host, Greg White, supply chain adjutant, serial supply chain tech entrepreneur, and trusted advisor. Greg, how you doing?
I am doing great. I'm glad to be at the center of the universe, and I'm also glad it's in Las Vegas.
Right. Even if the weather's been a bit odd this week.
Odd is an understatement, yes.
But nevertheless, we've had some wonderful conversations. We look forward to having one here today. Quick programming note, you can find all of our podcasts wherever you get your podcasts from, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and
YouTube.
Yeah, just make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing. So, Greg, this morning we are bringing on Mr. Bruce Brown, CEO of InforMission.
We're speaking in color.
Yes.
White and brown, right?
That's right. I forgot about that from the prep conversation. We got to keep it light here, so and easy for me. I'm a little bit slow. Bruce, we've enjoyed talking with you and Ken and some other folks from your booth here at the conference and Expo. First off, before we talk about you, great meeting this week, huh?
Absolutely. A bunch of people here that are clearly the leaders in their companies.
Yeah.
And all very focused on trying to improve things through reverse logistics, which, for years was kind of a neglected area.
Yes. Tony Sciarrotta, the executive director, calls it the dark side of supply chain.
Yeah.
But that's changing. It's more and more because consumers is so important to the consumer experience in the e-commerce age. It's front and center these days almost.
Yeah. We've had a lot of conversations with people. I think, look, consumers are more aware, and they've forced companies to be more aware. People want to know where their goods come from, and now they want to know where they go to. And, we heard in one of our discussions the other day, it's not end of life, it's about new life for a lot of these products, right? And I think that's a good purview to have, considering the environmental impacts and things like that. So.
Yep.
Agreed. So, Bruce, before we talk about InforMission, let's learn a little bit more about you and your journey. So where are you from, and give us the skinny on your upbringing.
The skinny. So I grew up in Illinois.
Okay.
Dad was a quality control inspector manager, very detail-oriented kind of guy.
Oh, man, I bet your chores and homework were immaculate.
No, but he was a very detail-oriented guy. And Mom always had a message for us, and she said, "Don't be a non-entity." And I went, what? Because I was a little kid, I don't know what that means. And she goes, do something with your life. Make a difference. Change things. And if there's any one thing I want to tell to reverse logistics professionals is get out of your own little backyard. Do the things to make reverse logistics better. Do the things to improve your own function. But don't limit it to that. Think about how else you can improve the rest of the organization. What impact, what new technologies can you use? How can you change things? So that's where I grew up.
That's a great learning, man.
It is, and I like that tagline, don't be a non-entity.
Yeah.
There you go. You're going to use that on your show?
Yeah. We might owe you some license.
Yeah, or your mom, right?
Mom, yeah, you can pay her.
That's right. Well, let's switch gears from your personal side to your professional journey. CEO at InforMission. Kind of shed some light on that journey to get to this role.
So InforMission Solutions is a technology provider, so we're a high-tech company. We actually spun this out. There's an InforMission, which spun out InforMission Solutions specifically to deal with the new ANSI standard, which we're going to be talking about, 12N. That's the abbreviation for
Right.
it. There's actually a really long name, but 12N is good enough.
12N and 12 Enders. We'll learn a lot more about that, right?
12 Enders, yeah. And we're going to have that new sports team. So technology company, and but it's really weird that I got into this because, like, in college, I started out and computer science was relatively new at the, in terms of the masses learning it, and I kind of got interested in it. Mm-hmm. So I got a part-time job during the summer after my freshman year in college, working in a computer group, right, downtown Chicago,
Really?
every day, trucking down there. And at the end of the summer, I told everybody, I will never work with computers. I said, those people are the weirdest damn people I have ever met. I don't want anything to do with them. Keep me away from
Love
this.
it.
I just don't want to have anything to do with it. So that was it. That was the end of my career. Then I got a business degree.
Yeah.
And at the end of the business degree, I had to do a computer course. I went, well, it's kind of interesting, actually. Then I got back out and did some more computer stuff. Went to work for some pretty big companies, State Farm Insurance, Apple, several others, and did a bunch of management, but did a bunch of technical management. So I was managing IT groups, managing standards organization. So I managed standards for State Farm's 25 data centers for all the IT things. Then at Apple, I managed a bunch of IT groups. Then I went off into the direct marketing portion and ran a separate business unit and ran into logistics problems because it was a separate business unit. We were shipping compilers and so on. And we had to send out these packages, sort of a drop ship operation. And we had export control issues. We had problems with carriers. We had packaging issues. So in this little microcosm of a business within Apple, the major business, we were running into all these kinds of problems. Guess what? I'm still dealing with those kinds of problems. And
well, you enjoy solving them.
I do.
And solving them in new ways, from what I understand. We're going to talk more about that, right?
Yeah. So one of the things that I found as I continued through work was I liked IT because IT got to see everything. We had to deal with sales and marketing. We had to deal with accounting. We had to deal with distribution, logistics, everybody. So our view, as an IT professional, your view, especially as you get into management, isn't just of this function or that function. It's of the entire business, and how do I optimize that? So that's pervaded my thinking. And when we get into talking about 12N a little bit, you'll see how that affected that as well.
So, Greg, let's dive right in.
Yeah, well, I'd like to learn a little bit about your company now, InforMission. So tell us a little bit about the business problems you solve, and particularly if someone's walking down the hall in their office, what pain is going through their mind, or what keywords, right, should they be looking out for to say, hey, this is a solution that I need?
I think when you have recurring pain, you sort of get numb to it. Your right toe, your right toe hurts. It hurt yesterday. It's going to hurt tomorrow. It just, it's always there.
Yep.
And I think,
off.
And it's sort of like it's written off. You just sort of deal with it. And so, as a reverse logistics professional, as a logistics professional, as a sales and marketing professional, you sort of get used to this is the way things are done. I send the garbage truck out. It picks up this kind of garbage, but doesn't pick up that kind of garbage. I schedule some sort of return. It's handled in this particular way. So you get locked into this kind of thinking. And what we're doing in InforMission is applying the simple thing, this 12N standard, which is actually about labeling and barcodes.
Right.
Now, Ken Jacobson came to me, he's a neighbor, and he said, Intel's got a problem. They need to get information on a label and get it on a package when they do triage on it. This is refurbishing, and send it off to China for refurbishing, and they need to get all this information. I went, well, so what? It's a label. It's a barcode. It's boring, right? I mean, it's boring. And then he kept nagging me about it, and we got into it more and more, and we started going like, wait a minute, what if we could change that from just being a label that solves a problem for Intel to a label that makes it easier for people to buy products at retail? What if that same label could be used to make it easier to register the product for the warranty? So instead of having 1 to 8% registration on your product, this is a huge thing to marketing people,
Right.
by the way. You know,
Right.
right? Because how else do you keep in track? What if we could do something to make that happen, too? What if we could do something to make it easier to deal with technical support? What if we could change the paradigm?
So let me ask you about one, and I may have this application wrong, so feel free to correct me.
Sure.
It's happened all week. So you go into a big box store, maybe a big box store that isn't known for its customer service. And I'm not going to point anyone out, but
God, I don't know who you mean.
a store where there's not many folks on the floor, and you're trying to find one specific item, and it's in, across this huge, massive store. I think, if I understand you correctly, if you've got a helpful QR code.
So let's that's a great example.
Yeah.
Let me expand on that
Please,
a little bit.
please.
Let's say you go into your favorite big box store, and
Yep.
now you got it. So I'm not going to use the name that I usually use. It starts with a W, but you go into your favorite big box store, and they're common,
Yep.
and they're a big retailer. They're selling a lot of different kinds of products, but you are interested in buying a big screen television because you're going to watch some sporting game, right? And you get there, and there's 20 different 75-inch monitors or TVs or whatever, and you kind of got it narrowed down to a couple, but you got some technical questions. Who are you going to ask?
Right?
For those of you who are just listening, his head just spun around 360 degrees right here in the chair.
Right.
So
Man, you spit right in. You host the next show, Bruce.
that's great. So that's exactly it. They're probably not consumer electronics specialists
Right.
there, especially for TVs.
Right.
So
It's hard enough to find customer service specialists, right?
It's
there's
a lot of stuff.
I can guarantee you they don't know enough about the television for a guy whose dad was in charge of quality control.
There you
Good
go.
point.
There you
Good
go.
point.
There you go. But even for people who weren't, and if you're going to lay down a bunch of bucks and you really, really want to see the best possible image of that football game, you might have a couple of questions. So you get narrowed down to a couple of TVs. Well, what if one of them has these 12N QR codes on it, or they do, and you scan it, and then it gives you a couple of options. One of the options is specifications. So you can kind of look at that and go oh yeah, this has the kind of screen or that kind of screen. Then you see another button that says pre-sale support. Pre-sale support rings the phone. You're online talking to the manufacturer's pre-sale support.
Right there in the store.
Right there while you're standing there in the store, you're talking to pre-sale support, and they are the product specialists. They know about their product. They know about this model versus that model. Now, this is huge.
Fantastic.
This is huge for manufacturers. They've never been able to affect retail sales in that way because they don't have any connection with the customer, right?
Right.
They just ship the thing and hope it sells, right? And maybe put up some displays. So that's where the journey starts. Now, let's say you go and you select a TV, you buy it, you bring it home. Now you go and as you're taking it out of the box, you scan another label, similar 12N QR label. Hope we're not getting too much of that background noise.
Typically we like the background noise. We're in the thick of things, but they have got a
super volume.
Yeah, they've got quite a radio voice.
It's booming.
Yeah,
that's
anyway.
okay. I got a radio voice too.
Yeah.
So now you get the product home.
Yes.
As you're opening it up, unpacking it, there's another 12N QR code. You scan this one. This time, it's an app. It's on the phone. So you see a series of buttons, and one button says register. Register my product, right?
Yep.
So we were talking about that before. You touch that button once, your product's registered. You're done. You don't have to fill out any cards. You don't have to go to a website. One click, your product is registered. Sales and marketing is suddenly loving us, right?
Absolutely.
And
Wow.
next thing is maybe you want setup instructions. You touch a button, and then maybe it takes you to a video for that particular product that's completely up to date. Let's say you get the whole thing set up, and you still have a question, or something isn't working. There's a button for tech support. So tech support can open a chat. It can open a phone call. The thing that every single company at this show has loved the most is the simplest thing in the world for us to do, a troubleshooting button. Now, you know what happens? If your computer, let's say, isn't working. Oh, God, I know that never happens.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
What am I saying?
Yeah.
But if
You just found my pain.
just for you, nobody else has this
Yeah,
problem.
right.
But your computer isn't working. The biggest problem that these larger companies have, all of them, is that people pick up the phone and they call tech support, instead of going to the website and finding the page, which has got all those same exact steps they want them to do, really nice, condensed, and all that.
Right.
The reason they don't do that is because all these websites are so big and take so long to navigate that people are bored. We don't do it that way. You touch the troubleshoot button on the app, when it displays, it takes you directly to the troubleshooting steps for your product, probably cutting off a good percentage of the calls that would otherwise be tying up the lines with tech support.
Doubt.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and getting you to that information that much quicker, right?
So you were asking for pains, right?
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, I think people live with the pain of they have a high call volume eating up their 800 numbers because that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Because
for tech support or customer support,
for tech
right?
support, customer support. I think they live with the pain of they can't affect retail sales in any meaningful way.
Yep.
Because that's just the way it is. Well, we're changing the way it is. We're giving them a different way to operate so that they can affect their sales, so they can reduce their costs.
Yes. All right. So for the sake of time, I'll move a little bit ahead because I think I love the practical application.
You mean we don't have 3 hours?
You bet.
Oh, okay.
We can make that happen. But no, I love it. I love the practical examples you use that most everyday consumers can relate to. So let's talk about 12N in particular, because this is not my forte. What is when we say 12N and there's a longer?
So
what is that first?
So Ken heard about this problem with Intel.
Okay, and Ken is part of
Ken Jacobson is part of the standards committee, and he helped form the standards committee here to come up with a way to solve this problem that Intel was talking about with the products coming in triage here, refurbished overseas, information not moving with the product in the correct way. There's a whole lot of detail to that which we can skip over. But we got together, and as we started talking about it, and as we started getting more and more input from different companies about the problems that they were facing, problems especially in reverse logistics, but also in these other functions, we put together a data format, a way of structuring the data. And in particular, we started focusing on these QR labels because they can hold, like you said, 4,000 characters.
Right.
So it's not just the old barcode with 100 characters; it's 4,000 characters. And so let me give you an example.
Yeah.
We're doing a proof of concept with FedEx now for one of their business units, and we've got a label over in the booth. And if you scan that label, it's got information for that particular thing. It's diagnostics on a PC. Mm-hmm. Well, when you hook, we're using Eurosoft software in that example. When you hook Eurosoft system into to scan the PC, it provides a whole bunch of information about every disk drive, the CPU, every component, right?
Right.
I don't care about that particularly, but repair people do.
Right.
So on this one label, we've got probably 90 fields of information on one QR code with all the little details of that, which is important to repair people so that when it moves along to the next step, they've got all that information. Yes. Especially if it's being shipped from one location to the other,
Eliminates some of the guessing, right? And saves a ton of time and helps you diagnose and fix.
Hey, look, if you're getting in, the worst thing is, as a repair person, if a computer is coming back over and over again and you don't know that that's happening and you don't have any history. So now what they're going to use these codes for is putting it maybe inside there, and it's the history of all the problems that we found, what we did about it. If the same computer, let's use that simple example, keeps coming back and they keep changing the disk drive on it, maybe it's not the disk drive that's the real problem, right?
Right.
But they wouldn't know that if they didn't have the history. And in the world of refurbishing, using computers as an example, manufacturers use multiple refurbishers around the world. So when a computer comes back, there's no guarantee it's going to go back to the same place. And even if it does, there's no guarantee that that place is going to have any record of it.
It's like going to a different doctor's office 10 times. And they don't have all the information of your history. And they're kind of diagnosing in the blind a little bit.
You've been there, huh?
So 12N is the standard
12 is
for data.
12N is the standard for how the data is laid out. It's fairly complicated because, once again, we wanted to do something where it would have the biggest possible impact. If you're a big corporation, do you operate only in the United States? Click,
no.
Click, click. Okay, probably not, right? You thought about that for a while, didn't you?
Well, I was thinking, how cool would it be to be a big corporation as me?
And only, you, the big corporation.
Sorry, yeah.
So let's say you're a big corporation.
Delusions of grandeur.
I know. but we're going to help you with that because what we included in the standard was each one of the fields can be in any language, any currency, any unit of measure, grams, pounds, inches, meters,
dollars,
whatever.
Euros.
Yeah, dollars, euros, all of those things. Each field. So if you're a multinational company, you can have on that same label stuff in English, stuff in German, stuff in French, pounds, Deutschmarks, whatever have you. And then we got into thinking about it and go like, you might want to have some information that you don't want to share with the public. Like where it was manufactured or
anything
revision number, anything sensitive.
Yeah.
So we put in 3 different ways of hiding data on the label where it's encrypted and only authorized people can ever even know it's on there. So once again, we're trying to solve not just the little problem, not just the single problem of one organization. So go back to my don't be a non-entity, your new tagline, right?
Yeah, our new tagline.
Our new tagline. If you're a reverse logistics professional, figure out what to do to, in this case, to use 12N to help leverage up your organization, to make it more efficient, to make things happen better. There's so many problems in reverse logistics now. And then go over to the sales and marketing guys and get to know them and say, like, hey, I got this way of doing this thing, but I can also, while I'm making that label, I can stick a button on there for you too.
I love it. Love it. All right, so before we leave Informission and kind of broaden back out, and we'll talk about where listeners can find more information. But any last detail before we kind of broaden back out and get your thoughts on the industry?
So Informission's role in all this is we make the systems to make all this happen. We make the systems so 12N is the data format, but we make the app. There's free app, 12N QR, on all the app stores. And then we make all the systems to facilitate this. So if they click that register button, the information gets back to the right company. Okay. And if they click tech support and so on. So we keep it all up to date.
Changing the world. I love that.
That's the idea.
Yeah. All right. So let's broaden back out from what you're doing and the team's doing at Informission. I want to get your thoughts as a supply chain leader and technology leader. What are 1 or 2 trends or issues or developments when you think of the global end-to-end supply chain or the circular economy? What intrigues you the most right now?
I had a great conversation yesterday, so your timing is good, and it opened my eyes. And it just happened. I sat down at lunch, and a lady I know works for one of the biggest waste management companies, and another person was a recycler dealing with textiles, fabrics, and started talking about the problems of getting materials, picking things up, getting them sorted in the right way, the expense of all of this, the troubles of logistics, the problems of moving so many trucks around in cities and you can't park them any place and you're messing up the streets and garbage being on the street. And then flip side was delivering products to houses. I mean, we have an incredibly messed up infrastructure now. There's no efficient way to pick up stuff from the house, drop stuff off at the house, and do it without it costing you a fortune, right? So I look at that, and I love AI. I love a lot of disciplines, but I'm looking at some of these problems and going like, we have to start thinking in different ways about how we deal with transportation, getting things to the house. And part of that, I mean, with my little 12N tilt here is, if we can have better labeling, even if it's on stuff that eventually ends up in recycling, we can have that label printed. There's ways of printing it where you don't even see it, by the way. And that if that can help the sorting process and get it handled more efficiently, if that can help the recycling process, we got to be part of it. And when we worked on the 12N standard, we have these we call them field indicators. Came up with field indicators for the recycling industry. So at end of life, the customer, so when they scan that label and it's getting towards the end of life, they can touch a button and it will tell them, for this product, return it here. Or trade it in here. We got to start thinking about the environment, the economy. And, doing things in a way that makes sense, that makes it all happen faster.
So, Greg, what I'm hearing here, labeling does not do it justice. What Bruce is talking
QR
about.
code doesn't do it justice.
Agreed.
Really.
No.
But what
No.
Bruce is talking about is better information when it's
Data
needed.
gathering,
Yeah,
identification.
right there in the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, labeling kind of belittles it a little bit because, to your point, you said labeling
is boring.
But
Yeah.
No, I said barcodes, especially.
Oh,
boring.
barcodes, yeah. but I mean, imagine
same idea.
Imagine a scenario where all of these products come in, everything in your garbage. Let's just stay on garbage.
Let's work on
it
garbage.
comes in on a conveyor, and those barcodes, or not barcodes, the QR codes, or whatever the label is scanned, and it's sorted, right, based on what the scan reads. That could be a virtually foolproof sorting system to assure that not only is it a plastic, but it's this type of plastic, so it goes here, or it's that type of plastic, so it goes there, right? This can be incinerated.
Yeah.
This shouldn't be incinerated, right? All of those sorts of things are potential there. I was thinking of, as I'm prone to do, I was thinking of the incredibly complex regulations in the cannabis industry in both Canada and the States, and they use RFID codes, and those are expensive, right? So literally every single plant in the cannabis industry has an RFID tag hanging on it. But if they could make that something more cost-effective with more data information on it, that would be game-changing from a regulatory standpoint, and I think that would greatly reduce cost and burden of both government and producers. And that's just one other industry example. There are a ton
Lots of applications.
of ways you could see this thing being used.
Yeah, and this is great because this is typical. When we start talking about this and when we start, people come back with more ideas of how it can be used.
That's how you know you're onto something. I know you know that, Bruce. I mean, you worked at Apple, right?
Yeah.
But that's how you know you're onto something is when you are going down a path with the product you've developed, and somebody goes, "Hey, could it be used for this or that or the other thing?"
Absolutely.
That's when you know you're onto something. So I think you're onto something.
Yeah, and thank you so much. And that happens all the time. I mean, people use their own creativity because they've got their own problems. They've got their own things that they're thinking about in the back of their head. Maybe it's a little bit, subterranean, a little bit under the surface because it's just they've lived with that problem so long.
Yeah.
But then they start seeing this and they go, "Oh, wait a minute, maybe I could solve my problem. Maybe I could do something in a better way."
All right, so Bruce, as we start to close the interview here, let's make sure folks know where they can learn more information about InforMission, as well as connect with you.
Sure. So you can go to InforMission. It's like 3 words: INFORMISSION. InforMission.com.
Yep.
And there's a tab on there that says something about I think it calls about labels or about something like that, or about 12N. And there's many tons of use cases on there to kind of expand your thinking about how you can use this for manufacturing, how you can use it for marketing, how you can use it for reverse logistics. So many different disciplines, just ideas to get you started.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's links in there to get you to more information. RLA site also has detailed information about the standard. And to get in touch with me is simple. Bruce.Brown, BRUCE.BROWN, real simple, at InforMission.com.
I have to ask this question.
Yes.
I mean, this is usually we wouldn't even ask this question at this point. But
What's it going to ask?
how are you monetizing this? I mean, how do people pay you? I mean, how do you guys make money at InforMission?
So there's no charge to consumers.
Okay.
We provide all the apps, keep everything free. For manufacturers, there's a small charge for interfacing to our systems to produce the labels correctly to adhere to the standard, and then also for the additional services like registration of products and things like that.
So you're essentially a clearinghouse for the 12N standard, right? I mean, you're not.
And the 12N standard is a public standard.
Right.
You can go off and write your own code.
Right.
We've already gone off and written our own code, but we've written our own code in a way to make it generalized and to make it useful across multiple industries, multiple countries, and so we're providing ideas based on the standard that we helped create, because we think these are things in addition to just the bare bones. It's a standard that everybody's going to need.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like
Yours
it.
is a company that deserves to make money at this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a service as much.
I'm ready for your
anything.
check. I'm ready for your check right now.
I'm not allowed to use the checkbook, but you can talk to my wife.
Uh-oh. Yeah, she's nodding up and down. I see that. Okay, good.
So we've been chatting with Bruce Brown, CEO of InforMission. We'll make sure to provide these links in the show notes so you can learn more about the company.
Awesome.
Bruce, really appreciate you carving some time out.
Sure.
Really
My
enjoyed
pleasure.
diving into your story more. I know y'all been exhibiting here throughout the conference,
Yep.
and clearly y'all been having some fascinating conversations. As
Oh,
we
yeah.
have.
Oh, yeah.
So thanks so much for your time.
My pleasure.
So sit tight 1 second as we wrap up here, Greg. Another great conversation.
Yep.
The hits keep coming.
Amazing.
At RLA, right?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to wrap up. We usually invite our audience to come check us out in person where we're going to be, similar broadcasts like we're here today. But, Greg, we're going to the expedited version of that is go to our events tab at supplychainnowradio.com. You can check us out at Modex 2020.
Thank you.
AIAG.
We're trying to preserve our voices here. It's late in the show.
Automotive Industry Action Group, we just had 2 events there, and, of course, the Association for Manufacturing Excellence. We've got their event coming up in May. All find out more information on that. Find out more information on our stand-up and sound-off global interactive forum, all on the events tab or the webinar tab at supplychainnowradio.com. Greg, where can they find our podcast for folks that have heard this conversation and they want to know more?
They're going to want to know more on this one in particular, but they can go to Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Those are the most popular, or even YouTube if you really, really want to look at us.
But thanks for joining us here today. Stay tuned for our continuing coverage here of the Reverse Logistics Association Conference and Expo right here from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Supply Chain Now.